What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we have the 13 scariest cartoon characters of all time. You can't have an adventure without a hero, and you can't have a hero without a villain. Animators working on children's entertainment know that. Sometimes they get carried away a bit, and that's when the creepiest cartoon characters get created. These animated films may begin like any other, but as their heroes battle the overwhelming odds against them, they turn into some of the scariest cartoons for children. That doesn't mean they're bad though. It's that very struggle against evil and injustice that makes these stories dramatic and memorable. In our list of the 13 scariest cartoon characters of all time, we're taking a look at some of the more family-friendly cartoons that nevertheless manage to sneak in some darkness and danger. Number 13, Venom from Spider-Man 1994. Thanks to Venom, we know what an alien-human hybrid looks like. Venom possesses a huge teeth-filled maw with a lower jaw that he can unhinge like a snake. Add to this a Hulk-sized body and cover it with a peculiar black goo that can change its shape into spikes and tentacles. What you get is some good old-fashioned nightmare fuel. The character Venom originated as an idea by a Spider-Man fan to give Peter Parker an improved costume with cooler colors. Marvel brought the idea, which was then developed by the comic book illustrator Mike Zeck. Spider-Man's new costume was introduced in comic books in 1984 as a symbiotic creature that granted Peter Parker new powers, but also tried to impose its will upon him. By 1988, the alien symbiote bonded itself to a new bad guy, Eddie Brock, and called itself Venom. Venom made its first TV appearance in the 1994 Spider-Man cartoon. Number 12, Mumm-Ra from Thundercats in 1985. Pale, wizened, and draped in a tattered cloak, Mumm-Ra lurks from within the Black Pyramid among the ruins of an ancient civilization. That's pretty creepy for a Saturday morning cartoon villain, but the thing about Mumm-Ra is, that's his casual, everyday form. When he gets really angry, he calls upon the ancient spirits of evil to grant him the form of Mumm-Ra, the ever-living, who looks like a zombie on steroids. It's a silly concept, and yet Mumm-Ra manages to pull it off. But here's the most unsettling thing about Mumm-Ra: he cannot be killed. The heroic Thundercats, led by Lion-O, defeat Mumm-Ra again and again, only to have him attack them again once he regenerates. It's pretty scary. Number 11, Lawrence Limburger from the Biker Mice from Mars 1993 show. Biker Mice from Mars was a fairly popular Saturday morning cartoon series that originally aired in the mid-1990s. It follows a trio of alien humanoid mice as they battle the schemes of evil Poltarian aliens who devastated their own planet, all but exterminated the Martian mice, and are now covertly plundering the natural resources of our world. The main villain in Biker Mice from Mars is Lawrence Limburger, who is seemingly just a corporate mogul dressed in a purple pinstripe suit, except that Limburger is actually an alien from Plutarch who occasionally peels off his human skin, revealing a bloated fish-like creature beneath. Once you see that, it's hard to stop thinking about how that fake skin is stretched to the breaking point under the pressure of a corpulent monstrosity underneath. The only way to make such a creature creepier would be to see it in a live-action movie. Number 10, Chernabog from Fantasia in 1940. The first of the several Disney villains on this list is a dark deity from the Slavic mythology known as Chernabog. He appears in the final segment of the 1940 animated film Fantasia as a colossal demonic being looming over the lesser evil spirits, accompanied by the Night on Bald Mountain, a classical composition. As dawn approaches, Chernabog runs away and Ave Maria begins to play. But nobody really remembers that part of the movie because Chernabog is so much cooler than the ghostly monks that follow. As the segment itself was quite expensive, yet too short to be released in the cinemas by itself, it was soon accompanied by 7 other animated segments inspired by the classical works of Bach, Beethoven, Stravinsky, and others. Although financially unsuccessful upon its release, Fantasia earned some $70 million throughout the next few decades. Number 9, Gregory Rasputin from Anastasia 1997. Since the historical mad monk, Gregory Rasputin was pretty much a cartoon villain brought to life, it made perfect sense for the director and producer, Don Bluth, to turn him into one for his animated musical epic Anastasia. Killed early in the movie, Rasputin nevertheless survives due to his dark magical powers. Yet, his body just keeps falling apart to a gruesome and ridiculous effort. Rasputin places a curse on a Russian imperial family who all die in the Russian Revolution, but for the young princess Anastasia who loses her memory. Number 8, Professor Ratigan, the Great Mouse Detective in 1986. In a hidden world of the Victorian mice, Professor Ratigan is a rat. Dressed in a dapper suit, Ratigan is nevertheless a hulking monstrosity compared to others around him. A sadistic thug hiding under a thin veneer of civility. Ratigan is quick to throw henchmen to his pet cat Felicia as snack food. In the early 1980s, Disney tried to appeal to older children with several darker and more mature animated films. One of them was The Great Mouse Detective. It was released in 1986, and it was based on a series of children's novel by Eve Titus about the adventures of the brilliant mouse detective Basil of Baker Street, who lives and works out of a basement in Sherlock Holmes' home. Number 7, Hexxus from Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest in 1992. Hexxus is an evil spirit imprisoned in a tree by the fairies of the Fern Gully rainforest. When one day lumberjacks start cutting down trees, they not only antagonize the fairies led by Krista, but accidentally release Hexxus, who assumes the form of the pollution itself. Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, deliberately uses the haunting images of ecological disasters and personifies them into a seemingly unstoppable villain, Hexxus, who can't be truly destroyed, but only imprisoned. Fern Gully The Last Rainforest was an animated movie made as a joint Australian-American co-production. It premiered in 1992 and soon became a box office success that received mostly positive reviews. It marked the first ever voice acting role for Robin Williams, who would go on to provide the voice of the genie in Disney's Aladdin, released that same year. Number 6, Jenner and Dragon from The Secret of Nymph in 1982. There are monsters everywhere when you're just a mouse. Mrs. Brisby is a tiny field mouse trying to save her sick son from pneumonia. On her quest, she encounters a host of scary creatures, both benevolent and otherwise. There's a great owl with his glowing yellow eyes and a ruthless rat named Jenner. But possibly the scariest part of the film comes when Mrs. Brisby has to creep alone into a human household and put sleeping powder into the food of a fierce tomcat named Dragon, who already killed her husband. Number 5, The Horned King from the Black Cauldron in 1985. The Horned King is what Skeletor wants to become when he grows up, with a skull-like face and emancipated body wrapped in a long cloak. The Horned King is a feared ruler of a castle deep within the swamps in the mythical land of Prydain. He controls a small army of thugs and monsters, but is far more ambitious than that. The Horned King wants to get his claws on the magical Black Cauldron and use it to create an army of undead warriors. And he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that meddling kid Terran. Number 4, Him from the Powerpuff Girls in 1998. You don't often get to see Satan as the cross-dressing villain of a kid-oriented cartoon. Him may not look especially threatening, aside from those hands. But when voice actor Tom Kane and whatever mad genius of a sound designer Cartoon Network used worked their magic, Him was creepy as hell. His lazy voice sounds like a very essence of corruption, always echoing as if originating from the bottom of a well. But there's madness and fury underneath that can boil over at any moment. What makes him deeply unsettling is that unlike other villains in the Powerpuff Girl, he doesn't fight the show's superheroes for the sake of money, power, or revenge. Instead, he uses manipulation, corruption, and psychological torture to break them down for the sheer evil of it. And if that isn't creepy enough, then nothing is. Number 3, Judge Doom from Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 1988. Just because a film features cartoon characters doesn't mean it's 100% kid-friendly. and no kid who ever saw the film of Who Framed Roger Rabbit will easily forget Judge Doom. This noir parody is set in a world where human beings and anime characters uneasily coexist. Eddie Valiant is down on his luck private detective working on a murder case involving a famous cartoon star, Roger Rabbit, and his wife Jessica. Judge Doom is a sadistic official covering all the cases involving cartoon characters. Doom is finally revealed to be a cartoon character himself, wearing a fake skin as costume. With his shrill voice and demonically bulging eyes, Judge Doom is frightening and his death proves equally gruesome. When flattening him with a steamroller proves to be ineffective, Doom gets dissolved by a toxic chemical mix of his own invention. Pleasant dreams, kids. Number 2, General Woundwort from the Watership Down in 1978. Watership Down follows a group of cute, fluffy rabbits led by the Brothers Five and Hazel on a quest to find a new warren before their tribe gets brutally slaughtered by humans. After barely surviving their trip, the heroic rabbits finally arrive at Watership Down only to face their greatest threat, a nearby warren that is led by General Woundwort, a thuggish, cunning, and utterly heartless despot. Released in 1978, Watership Down was based on a 1972 novel by Richard Adams that was rejected by 6 publishers before finally being published. And number 1, Orcs and Nazgul, The Lord of the Rings 1978. In the 1978 animated adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, the monsters are truly a stuff of nightmares. The film was made using the live action footage, which was then rotoscoped to make it appear as if it was animated. The result is a somewhat unsettling hybrid between the two mediums, and that's before the Orcs and Nazgul appear. When they do, they are not even creatures, but more like black holes in a cartoon landscape, horrendous intruders from some alternate dimension. They are truly the scariest cartoon character of all time. And that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.